Good morning, Senior Home Business family. How you guys doing today? Happy Monday. It is October 7th, 2024. Today we're going to talk about secrets that senior living communities don't want you to know. We're going to get right into that. As I got rock and roll going on, man, trying to pump up the motivation today, man. Get going. How many of you motivated today to do what you want to do? I'm going to talk a little bit about the business as well, as I tell you some of these secrets of senior living communities. We'll get into the business aspect of it as well, so we can get into all that good stuff. So let's rock and roll. Hope you guys, again, I hope you're having a great day. Going to have a great week. A lot of it's your mindset, you guys. A lot of it's just your perspective going into this week. Focus on the things that are going to benefit you today. Embrace those things and don't allow the negativity to enter into your heart and your mind, and focus on those things that are going to uplift you. And you want to do that. It's so important. I know we're going to get into the secrets today of senior living communities, but it's so important to do that. You'll have 60,000 thoughts today. 60,000. That's incredible. 60,000. So out of those 60,000, you realize over 90% of those thoughts will be the identical thoughts, the same thoughts you had yesterday. Little pro tip, mix it up a little bit. But let's get into the secrets. What are some of the secrets that senior living communities do not want you to know? And then, before I forget, if you want to know more about the business, you can drop down and click a webinar if you want to watch a webinar. I think the webinar is almost an hour long. It's Brittany and myself. We're talking a little bit about real estate, talking a little bit about, obviously, a lot about this business and what we do on a daily basis. And we would encourage you to look at that. If you just want to jump forward and schedule a consultation with myself, you can click a link and do that. And I think there's another link down below. You can click and watch a podcast or join a free senior living group and just get to know some people that are in the community. You can do that as well. So, but secrets, man, secrets. And I want to define this real quickly before we get into it. I'm not talking about things that communities are intentionally being deceptive. I'm not talking about things that senior living communities are trying to hide and don't want you to know. I know that's what the title says, but these are essentially 5 things that I want you to understand as a senior placement agent that you need to help your families navigate through this process. And if you are a loved one of someone that needs assisted living, memory care, these are some 5 areas that you want to focus on, and you want to have a clear-cut discussion with the community about. You really need to know the answers to these questions. If you don't, you're going to find out later these answers, and it may be a little too late. I mean, it's never too late. You can always make adjustments, but you don't want your loved one moving into a community and, getting hit with some of these 5 things I'm going to go over with you and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know. You want to know these things on the front end. And if you know these on the front end, it's going to go a lot better for you, a lot better for your loved one, and you'll be able to move through this process and be able to sleep at night, man, have some peace. I mean, how many want some peace and, some relaxation, and you'll have some peace about your loved one being in a certain community because these answers to these questions are revealed to you. And if not, and you're going to find out later, and it's just never good. And these are some of the real life situations that we deal with as senior placement agents. We help families through these 5 things, but we also, we talk with families. Families will call us later. Hey, I didn't know this. I didn't understand this was in the contract that I was signing. And, talking about contracts, I mean, you have to look at these contracts when you sign with these communities. Again, they're not trying to deceive you, but it's like anything in life. You've got to read the fine print, right? I mean, these contracts are like this thick. I mean, they're 50, 80 pages long. They're just, long, tedious things you've got to read through. Now, what I always encourage my families to do is get a copy of the contract and take it home with you so you can read it. You don't want to try to read this thing in front of the person you're signing the contract with. I mean, that's if you go and bought a car, you're probably like me. I don't read all the fine print. I just start signing stuff, right? But you're going through page after page after page, and some of it's fine print and some of it's bold and right in front of you, and it's all there. It's all binding, but you just want to be careful what you're signing. So do your due diligence and take the contract home and Read it. So let's get into it. What's the first one I want to get into with you today, whether you're a senior placement agent or whether you are someone looking for your loved one to go into a community? You have to understand there's hidden fees, unexpected costs. This is just going to materialize. I've seen this happen multiple times over as a senior placement agent. It just happens. The hidden fees, could be right out of the gate. I mean, you see someone advertising an apartment at assisted living community and it's advertised for $2,500. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is great. Man, it fits me right in my budget. It's so much less than the other communities that I've called or I've gone by and toured. This is amazing. This is God sent. This is awesome. Right on time. My father or my mother can move into this community and we could afford it. And then only to get there and get in that community and go through the tour and find out, hey, there's a community fee of $3,000. Hey, there's additional cost for care. Hey, there's additional cost if your loved one needs to be seen more than 2 or 3 times a day. Or if your loved one is sick in an apartment and can't make it down for dinner and we have to bring the meal to them. These are all real life situations that I have dealt with as a senior placement agent. And I just want you to understand this. So again, if you're a senior placement agent, you need to educate your families that you're working with about these hidden fees, unexpected costs. Don't create a false hope. Meaning don't just go, oh yeah, we can get you for $2,500. And then they go there and find out there's a lot more to the cost than what you told them. Be educated. You have to know your market as a senior placement agent. And this is what you're doing. I mean, you're not just a liaison, a middle person to help them get into a community by simply identifying the community. I mean, I've told you over and over on this channel, Google can do that. Google could identify someone, a location. You could chat GPT it. You could do it all kinds of things. You could ask your neighbor. You can go down the street. You could pull out the old yellow pages. Do we have yellow pages anymore? I don't know. But you can just pull out some old information and go by and say, hey, there's a community. But you have to understand the hidden fees, unexpected costs. Going back to the meal in the apartment, one story of mine happened a number of years ago, but it was a lady that was living in a community, great community. I really liked the executive director, even though she's moved a couple, 2 or 3 times since then. And you're going to find out in this business, if you're not in the business or want to get into business, executive directors move around like football coaches. They just do. And so this one lady was there and she got sick. And she couldn't come down for dinner. So the community graciously brought the dinner up to her apartment. And then the next day, she's not feeling too well again. So she wanted to have breakfast and lunch and dinner brought to her because she just wasn't feeling up to par and she didn't want to be around others and not feeling good. I don't know if it was a cough or what it may be, but she was just ill. And so they did this. But then at the end of the month, what happened was the family got on their invoice, the rent, the monthly cost was elevated about $300-$400. And the family did not know. And it's in the contract somewhere that they'll be able to bring a meal to the resident 1 or 2 times throughout the month at no charge. And then beyond that, there's going to be a fee. And whatever that fee is, could be $25, could be $50, whatever the amount they put in there or the amount they determine. And that's what you want to know, because you think about your loved one being in a community, they're eventually going to get sick. I mean, you get sick, I get sick, we all get sick at some point in time. And if we can't make it down for dinner, that's a bad thing. Now, this is one reason why I do love residential care homes in this situation, because residential care homes, they'll just bring the meal to you. Obviously, you're right down the hall, you're in close proximity, but there's very little hidden fees when it comes to residential care homes. With large communities, they're oftentimes governed by, obviously, investors, management groups, and people that I enjoy, I like. I'm not bagging on them one bit, but they run it more like a business. Now, it doesn't mean the residential care homes don't run it like a business. I know somebody in my own area, they own 18 residential care homes. They run it exactly like a business. They view their community in and of itself as a large community, and it's run very similar to a large community. But you got to understand these hidden fees. I mean, what about even like activity fees? You're like, well, man, what's activity fees, man? I mean, they're playing bingo, they're playing Wii bowling, they're going downstairs, enjoying some entertainment in a dining hall. Maybe someone's doing a little concert for them, or there's a little gathering together to have some wine and cheese or whatever it may be. But some of the hidden costs would be, hey, there's a bus that's going to Red Lobster. Hey, there's a bus going to the zoo. Hey, there's a bus going somewhere, and your loved one wants to hop on that bus and go. Well, oftentimes those type events, those type activities are not included in the overall cost. So you need to be aware of that. And so as a senior placement agent, you've got to be aware of those additional costs, especially if you are referring a senior into an independent community. This is probably more than just assisted living. Assisted living does a few things, but independents, man, they'll go all over the place, right? And that's just one of the things and ways they entice you to come. I mean, I've got a lot of seniors I've referred to independent communities. Their spouse passed away. They didn't want to live in a big house anymore by themselves. And so they want to go to these certain events. They want to socialize with seniors, but those type events do cost. Now, they don't cost a whole lot, but still, you add those events over time. Maybe it's one event per week at $10. It's an additional $40, right? I mean, those different things you just want to add up, because sometimes families get their loved one into a community and they go, oh man, I can afford that $3,500, but I cannot afford a penny more. I mean, literally, it's down to $3,500 what we got. And pretty soon you're going to find out $40, $80, $100 or more being added to the bill. So you want to understand these hidden fees as senior placement agent and as a family. And the only way you can understand these hidden fees and unexpected costs that are going to arise, it's inevitable. They're going to arise. I mean, in some situations like the zoo and things like that on the bus, the $40, you probably just have to build that into the budget. But some of the expenses that are a little more expensive, they're going to put you out of your budget and make it where you cannot pay your bill. You need to have a serious conversation with the community. Read again the contract, take it home, read it from cover to cover, highlight it, underline certain things, go back and get your questions answered. Anything that's ambiguous, anything that's a little bit blurry, a little bit in the gray area, you want to get that written down and signed in the contract. You don't want to go just by hearsay and say, oh, okay, they said, don't worry about it. We got you. It's kind of like the meals being taken to the lady. We got you. Don't worry about it. Well, we got you. Don't worry about it. After the third, fourth time turns into an additional cost. So you just want to be aware of that. The second thing I want to go over with you today is staffing levels may vary more than you think. So what happens is when you go on a tour, and this is kind of your initial orientation of the community, you walk into the community. A lot of these communities will stage the tour. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's just putting their best foot forward, but it happens, right? So you walk into a community, and I call it a 3-ring circus, man. You got a little bit of a concert going over there. You got some bingo over there and wine and cheese in the middle. Seniors all hanging around. They maybe recruited a few seniors to approach your loved one. And so it appears to be a very friendly community. And it might be, okay, but they're going to do those kind of things. Where you're really going to understand these staffing levels of these communities is not only by asking them and not only by observing the community at 10 o'clock in the morning, but you want to go later on in the afternoon as well. You might want to stop by in the evening. Now, evening hours and visitation hours, usually cut off around 7 o'clock or so, but you might want to ask permission. Can you come at 8 or 9? If you cannot go at those hours, then you want to go at the very last minute. They allow a visitor to show up. So if 7 o'clock is the cutoff, may get there about 6:45. That way you're able to gain entrance into the community. Tell them who you are. Don't just walk around like some stranger and the staff is worried about who and where you are, but identify yourself and say, hey, I'm seriously considering this community for my dad. Would you mind if I just walk around a little bit? A marketing director will probably be there, and that'll be great. He or she can walk you around, go on a second tour, but you're going to kind of get a different feel in the evening than you do during the day. This even happens on the outside of the building. I've got a community in my area, outstanding. The way it looks, it's beautiful, wood beams all inside, and it's just amazing. And their state reviews are not amazing, so you need to look at that. But just looking at the outside of the building and even the inside, it's amazing. But if you go to that location, like at 10 o'clock at night, the whole atmosphere changes. During the day, it's peaceful. At 10 o'clock at night, it's a little bit loud, a little bit different crowd across the street, the convenience store, there's an apartment complex nearby. A lot of things are going on. So you want to make sure that. Now, staffing levels will change at night. So you want to have a conversation with the community and ask them, what is your staff to resident ratio? And they're going to tell you, they're going to say, okay, we have a caregiver for every 10 apartments. Or if you go into a residential care home, it's going to be maybe a caregiver for every 3 residents, whatever it may be. So you want to get comfortable with that. So ask them what the ratio is. Now, understand that the community, again, putting their best foot forward, they're going to give you the best numbers possible. Now, they're not going to lie to you, I don't think. Most of them tell the truth. Most of them are in it for the right reason. Most of them love people. Most of them are not trying to be deceptive. But they're going to put their best foot forward, meaning they are going to tell you the best case scenario. So if they go, hey, for every 10 apartments, we have a caregiver, that more than likely is during the day. You want to ask very specifically, what is the ratio in the evening? Because let's say mom needs to get up for some reason. Mom needs assistance. Mom, she needs someone to come by and care for her. Well, in the evening, it's going to be very different. A large community I used to work for, I saw this change drastically. Now you're saying, why in the world were you there in the evening? Well, I was an outside salesperson, not technically with the community, but that's really what I was doing. I was hobnobbing with physicians, doing lunch and learns, things like that. But I went back to the community because we had a move-in literally that transpired at 11 o'clock at night and officially got moved in at midnight. And I'm a type person that if it's a family of mine, even when I was with the community, I'm going to be there for the individual. Well, I was there in the evening and man, it was ghost town. I mean, we had one caregiver walking around the whole building. And it was a real eye-opening experience for me going, oh my gosh, the same level of care is not, it's not the same in the evening as it is during the day. And you come to think of it, that's when most people go on tours. It's during the day. It's not in the evening. It's not at 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? I mean, come on, realistically, most people don't do that. Most people are going there at 10 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're getting there right after breakfast. Seniors are, up and about doing certain things in lunch. They just had their meal. Maybe you go there for lunch. Maybe they treat you there for, a special lunch and you get to taste their food and you see the camaraderie of the seniors. You see the energy of the seniors. You see the conversations that take place and all that. But then that's not what happens in the evening. Most seniors, obviously, like me, I'm not really a senior, I'm 55, but I go to bed at night. But just because you go to bed at night doesn't mean you don't need cared for. And so you want to ask those very specific questions, okay? Another thing you want to ask is about turnover. Now, you're going to find, whether they tell you or not, communities inevitably struggle with turnover. There is a high turnover, especially since COVID. And even before COVID, there was an issue with turnover, but man, more so after COVID, because a lot of people now, it's hard to recruit them to work in a senior community, especially during COVID and right afterwards and all the things they're going through and what we experienced during that time. But ask them about turnover. And how you ask is, you're talking to the executive director, how long have you been here? Maybe she's only been there a couple months. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe she's a great executive director. Maybe they had a few struggles and they bring her in to correct certain things. Well, you want to find that out, right? I mean, why is she there? Where's she come from? Marketing directors are a dime a dozen. They come and go. What about the caregivers? Now, in some of these communities that I deal with, man, caregivers have been there for a long, long time. Some have been there 10, 15 years. That's amazing. It's almost unheard of, but it does happen. Some communities, they just hired a caregiver last week. Now, it doesn't mean the caregiver just got hired last week is inadequate to take care of your mom or dad. So it's not just a matter of tenure as it is of expertise. I would find out how long they've been there. And then if it's only been a week or 10, even if it's 10 years, what's their level of experience? Now, been there 10 years, the obvious answer to the question is, oh man, she's got 10 years of experience. 1 week is a different story, but maybe she just moved here from out of town. Maybe she used to work for another community for a long period of time. A lot of these communities will just, let you know, hey, we've got a nurse on staff. She's always here, which is never the case. She's not always there. The nurse is there. It may be as needed, but not always. And so you want to find out the level of involvement, the turnover. This is not something that's going to be in the contract. Obviously, you're going to find out turnover with residents, and you'll see the occupancy rate go down or go up. But you want to focus in on the caregivers. You want to focus in on the executive director, marketing directors, the staff of that community. How stable are they? This is the community that your loved one's going to be at, right? They're going to live there. They're not visiting. It's not Disneyland. I go to Disneyland or some other park or some other place. I don't really ask the question. I'm not really concerned how long they've been working there. It doesn't really matter. They take my money, give me a ticket. I go into the park or I go somewhere and I'm having fun. It doesn't really matter. But when your loved one goes into a community, you are depending upon that community, that staff to take care of your loved one. If they've only been there for a few weeks or they're inadequate in doing their job, they're inexperienced, then you want to know that. Now, it doesn't mean everybody's going to have 10 years of experience, right? You've got to start somewhere. When I worked for the large community, well, shoot, when I first day of operations, first day on the job, I have 1 day experience on that job, so you want to figure these things out. But what are you comfortable in that situation? So now, not all care plans are personalized. Now, communities are real big in saying this, man, we're going to have a personalized care plan. Some of these communities will have a point system. Some of them will have 2 or 3 ADLs. We call them activities of daily living, ADLs, in a category, and that will add maybe $499 to your overall expenses. Then if you got four between 4 to 6 ADLs, then what'll happen is it'll go up. Maybe it goes up to $699, $999. They'll have different prices. But you want to find out about how personalized the care plans are, because it's important, especially the medication that your mom and dad are taking, but also it comes down to maybe their dietary issues, right? They have a certain diet they have to adhere to. A lot of your residential care homes will do really well with this. They will personalize the meals for them. I've got a number of care homes that have done this. If you're vegan, they'll help you out. If you like to eat steak, I've told a story before on this channel where a residential care home, bless her heart, she was amazing. For like 6 months until the resident passed away, he demanded steak for 4 or 5 days a week. She did it. She went out and got him a steak 4 or 5 times a week. Most of your large communities will not do that. But if they have a certain diet, they have a certain foods they like to eat or should eat, then you want to make sure that this is being done. And only way you're going to make sure this is being done, you guys, is you got, as families or as a senior placement agent, you've got to follow up with the community, follow up with the family. And the loved ones are going to have to go into the community again, have a conversation with mom or dad if you're able to, and find out exactly what they're eating, because that's very, very important. The fifth one is you have more negotiating power than you think. Okay, this is a secret of the senior living communities, and it's something we do, something I do in my senior placement agent. See, is I negotiate for my seniors. Now, I don't negotiate by getting them to a lesser community. I don't negotiate and say, okay, well, they only have $3,500, so let's see a cheap community I can get them into. No, I go after a 5-star community and see if I can get them down. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm an advocate for seniors, and I trust if you're in the business or want to get in the business, this is your heartbeat. You're an advocate for seniors. So you can negotiate. You can negotiate the community fee in half. I've negotiated the community, and many of my students have as well, the community fee down to 0. And most families don't know that. Most families will just go in and they'll say, hey, the rent's $4,500 based on the care point system is another $1,000. So we're at $5,500. You have to pay 1 month of a community fee. So it's going to be $5,500 or $45,000, depending on if they throw in the care or not. And then the person goes, oh, okay, well, that must be the way it is. It's not necessarily the way it is. They're very competitive as well. They want your business, especially if the resident is someone obviously they can take care of. They have a good personality. They like the family. There's a lot of criteria that goes into it. They might just want you in the community or want your loved one there, because when they go through and have tours, man, it's imperative that they have some outstanding seniors that are in that community during the tours. A pro tip for senior placement agents to understand this, because this is part of the negotiating way I do it, is you have these seniors that go in this community, and if they're ambulatory, they're more independent, they have a great personality, things like that, the community is going to want them there, because the next person that comes by, that is the resident they're going to see, or the type of resident they're going to see in their communities, right? I've had people go into communities and refuse to have their mom or dad go there, especially in memory care. And this gets a little more challenging in memory care, I know. But I had one person in particular, I remember he refused his mom to go there because he walked through the memory care unit, and a lot of the seniors for that particular day, and maybe it was every day, I have no idea, they were pretty much comatose. His words, not mine. And so he didn't want his mom in that type of environment. So if you're able to get some seniors that are a little more ambulatory, got some personality, they smile, they're a little more, they socialize a little bit more with other seniors, and they're unafraid to approach people when they tour. And, you know, it just gives a good vibe, right? Because your families are going to go into this tour and they're going to check out the vibe, right? It's just, okay, how does this place feel? Is this the right place for my mom or dad? And so you can negotiate with these communities. So if you're a family, you can negotiate even on the rent. Now, the equation in this industry, not to go too deep into it, but it's rent plus care equals cost. So you've got the rent, you've got the care. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, you cannot negotiate on the care piece, but you can negotiate on the rent piece. Okay. And so encourage families to do that. Senior placement agents representing your families, negotiate on their behalf. Do not be the senior placement agent that's out there that goes, I'm not going to negotiate because maybe you don't know how, but you refuse to learn. Or the one that's worse, you go, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get that move-in rate from $5,500 to $4,500 because I'm making $100,000. I'm making $100,000. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm making 100% profit on this deal. You don't want to do that. And so you go, okay, if I get it down 1,000, I'll make $1,000 less on this deal. Don't be so selfish in the sense that you're just looking after your needs. Ultimately, look after the needs of the ones that are led in your direction, that you're taking care of. Meaning you're a senior placement agent, you're helping them getting to an outstanding community, but you're saving them money. Do that. So these are the 5 secrets, you guys, that's oftentimes senior living communities do not want you to know. And again, they're not trying to hide it because they're being, deceptive. They just, things that you don't know, but you know now by watching this video. Share this video with other people that are looking for communities. You need to know these 5 things. Again, the hidden fees, unexpected costs, staffing levels, communities, struggle with turnover, plans are not oftentimes personalized, and you can negotiate with these communities. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys today. If you'd like to know more about the business, again, you can drop down, schedule a consultation call with myself, or watch a free webinar, or you can listen to our podcast on a daily basis. Until next time, God bless.